Hi, good afternoon. This is the April meeting of the Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee. I'm Cynette Cavaliere, the chair of this group, so welcome to everybody. I think we're pretty good with introductions, unless everybody thinks we need to go through it again this month. I'm good, so usually if I'm good, everybody else is probably good too, so okay. So then we'll just dive right into our agenda. And the first thing that I want to do is do the review and approval of the minutes of the meeting from March 9th, 2023. Thanks again to Matt for taking this task on, and another well-done job. So I hope you've all had a chance to scan this, and if there is no disagreement, will somebody make a motion to approve these?
I move to approve the minutes of March 9th.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any disagreements with that? Okay, then they are approved. That's easy. The second item on our standing agenda is the Monroe County Environmental Management Council report from Daniel Moore. So
hi everyone. So I was absent last meeting, so I have 2 months worth of stuff to go over, but I'll just briefly discuss what we were talking about. So in December, the meeting we had a member from the DEC talk to us about invasive species, most notably 3 species of the giant hogweed, which can cause burning and permanent scarring, a swallowwort, and a wild parsnip. And so any more information, if you want to learn about invasive species, you can go to Cornell Extension or the DEC website. And I have submitted the notes online, so hopefully it could become a member or posted to the public if need be. And then in January, we had our annual joint meeting with the Recycling Advisor Committee, and one thing that I found exciting was that the county was given $100,000 from the state to be used for a organics management plan. So the county will be looking at more ways to recycle organic material. And then in February, I was notified that New York State's wastewater surveillance program for COVID was now expanded for the norovirus, hepatitis A, and polio. And then during that meeting, there was also a guest speaker from the Genesee River Watch, which the Genesee River Watch designs, obtains funding, and completes projects to improve the Genesee River. And then in March, we were given an overview about what the county Department of Public Health does. And so there are several divisions of what the county does, the county health department does, and environmental health is what the Environmental Management Council is part of. And we also learned about the social determinants of health, which notably includes climate change and how it affects everyone, essentially. And then just looking forward, the next meeting is April 19th, which is open to the public, and we'll be looking at the Department of Planning. And 2 notes, we are looking for 4 16 to 21-year-olds to be part of the board, so maybe there's going to be someone younger than me. And also, one of the questions that was asked to me directly was, does the Town of Penfield have a deer management program?
Say deer management?
Because, yeah.
The animal?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. Could you?
I'm actually not sure on deer animal, and I know Sarah asked for clarification because we have DEAR, DEAR, which is the daytime education the program for seniors at the community center. So we do have that program. I'm not sure about the animal deer management. That's something we can check with our DPW on, but I'm not sure on that.
And do you know what they're looking that would encompass, the program would encompass?
So in the towns of Irondequoit and Parrington, they have a bow hunting program to lower the population of deer.
Okay.
And so
that's helpful in figuring out the answer.
Good. Does anybody have any questions for Daniel on his report? My takeaway is that I'm slightly jealous because it sounds like you're having some amazing educational opportunities, which I think is one of the things we discussed at the end of our meeting last month, was trying to incorporate some of those things in ours, so.
I had the same thought. Cynette is wondering if you see anything, or in future, keep your ears and thoughts thinking whether it would be a good speaker for us.
Okay. I make a note that we have a couple of guests. I just want to make sure that I don't exclude you. Are you just listening in for, okay. Okay, very good. Thank you and welcome. Okay, then we're going to dive into, we don't need to accept his report or anything like that. That's just a standing. I want to make sure our protocol's good on this. Okay, thank you. Review of our required items. The first one would be town development projects. Do we have any this month to talk about?
Not right now. So we do have a few development applications going forward right now. Right now, a simple subdivision, no development occurring as part of that, no EPODs of note on the properties, and redevelopment of 2 commercial properties in town, no EPODs of note on either of those properties either.
Okay.
Do you know which 2 commercial properties they are?
Yes, Parkside Commons, there's a medical building, vacant medical building. Previously was Penfair Pediatrics. They moved across to Penfair Plaza. So Parkside Commons are looking to renovate it to have one unidentified tenant and 2 food establishments. The other is down off of Penfield Road. Next to Speedy's Plaza, there's an existing Flower City arcade. They're looking to do an addition to expand their operation. And the planning has no public hearings for May, so no new applications for this month.
Okay. Do we have any requests from the town board?
Nope, not at this time.
It's going to be a light agenda for us. We like it. Okay. Is there anything with regards to the clean energy community actions that we need to be aware of?
Actually, yes. Today, whether it's complete or not right now, by the end of today, they expect to have the new charging station here at the town hall installed and operating. They started that project yesterday, and it should be complete today.
It's
And
going to be
that-
right next to the other one.
Yep,
Back.
yep. And that project is a result of a grant that we received from doing the community campaigns in collaboration with Color Penfield Green.
How many more stations will it be?
Just one.
Just one, okay.
Yep.
Have they started putting metering on those charging stations yet?
No, so because they're not stations that we are charging for the electricity, they're not networked, so we're not metering them in that way. They are connected into our system, so I do know that the finance office can look up what the cost is at some point, and they've done that before.
Okay. Any other questions on our review of required items? Good. Okay, moving into old business. The first item I have is continue our discussion on Tree City USA, the tree ordinance. And I know we received a sample tree ordinance.
So, last week when we sent out the agenda, we also sent out the sample tree ordinance with it. And we wanted to start getting input from this committee as to what direction they felt was reasonable to go in with it. So that is up on the sample ordinance is actually up on the screen if you don't have it in front of you, so it's an easier reference. And I figured I'd start with any questions or thoughts from the committee.
I have a question. Where did the sample come from?
It came from, I want to say it's the Arbor Foundation, which is actually like the foundation that keeps track of tree cities in the U.S. So it's from the main source for Tree City USA.
Are there other examples, benchmarks, best practices available?
So, let's see.
Daniel passed out some, I
I
think
have
you
more.
passed out Brighton and Greece, and actually he's,
Brighton, Greece, and
ahead,
ironically,
speak.
yeah.
So, Matt, would you mind pulling up the document that you put together that compares the different tree ordinances in this area and provides the requirements? So Matt put this document together. It'll show up on the screen. And I believe it's on page 4, has the comparison items. So there are ordinances in Greece, Brighton, Arundel, Tonawanda, and Orchard Park that we can also look at and consider. Most of those have the same basic format. This is the comparison spreadsheet or table that Matt put together. But most of them have the same starting points of a purpose, a definition, on the bottom right of the page.
We're working on
Oh.
merging.
So most of them have the same or similar purpose, definitions. The authority and powers are slightly different. Some towns have a town arborist. The town of Penfield does not. Some specifically are the highway superintendent or public works or some similar mechanism for who makes the decision on what trees are coming down and does the review of those types of projects. Some towns have a town forestry plan and which the standards fall under. Some are specifically in town code. Right now, Matt filled in a Penfield section as to the basic direction of where the Conservation Board previously went. There are some things that we should discuss of where the authority power comes from. Previously, the Conservation Board set that as Conservation Board. The town has previously discussed if that should be Conservation Board or if that should be the Parks Department with whatever connections, whether it's engineering or something else, so there's kind of that check and balance. The concern with having the Conservation Board, or more specifically EECC, would be because the committee only meets once a month, say a tree falls down tomorrow or a large branch falls off of a tree tomorrow, what is the mechanism to get that taken care of as safely and reasonably quickly as possible? So that's something that the committee should discuss. Then whether the tree ordinance is put in the town code or whether that is something that's referenced in the town code should be considered. If it's specifically put in the town code, that means that there has to be a public hearing, and anytime there's any amendments to that ordinance, there would also have to be a new public hearing, and that process generally takes 2 to 4 months to complete. By having something similar to a forestry plan, which would be like the town's design specs, that way it wouldn't be in the town code where that has to be changed every single time there's a small change.
Right.
It would still be official because it would be referenced in the town code, but any changes that need to be made would be a simpler process and quicker process. So that is another item that this committee should discuss of what they feel is more appropriate. Then prohibition against harming trees in the public. That generally is the same across all of the Tree City USA ordinances. Adjacent owner responsibility is generally the same. For certain trees declared a nuisance, those are generally hazard or nuisance, and we could go into more depth on that. For violations and penalties, I truthfully don't remember what that falls under. Do you remember, Matt?
Yeah, if I go back to the sample tree ordinance.
I think it was section 6.
Yeah, so that was the section 6 is prohibition against harming public
Yeah,
trees.
so it's section 9.
Section 9, so
Okay.
violations and penalty. If I go back to that here, essentially all of these have some section in their tree ordinance that has a noted, violations and penalties, and that usually will cite back to the authority or power and what actions they would take in the case of a violation or a penalty being issued. So in the ones that were reviewed, all of them had a section pertaining to that. The one just before it, the certain trees declared a nuisance, all that section or that row is really just stating is whether they refer to these trees as either hazards or nuisances, which, is up to the interpretation of where we want to go forward. But, I'll let Sarah.
An important item with violations and penalties is if it's determined to move forward with some kind of fee for harming a public tree, that doesn't in any other way fall under the town purview, like the engineering department or building department. That goes to a town court to make a decision. So if there's a violation, say someone drives a vehicle into a tree and the tree is destroyed, that would fall under building code to issue a violation notice, and then that would go to court to determine what type of fee or anything like that is. I don't actually know for Penfield if we can detail an amount. Do you know, Mark?
It's something we'll have to talk with council on, is if it's in the regulations ahead of time and it's, meeting kind of the standard there, then maybe we can. I don't know how that's detailed versus what normal, law and offenses and stuff like that. There are certain standards and dollar amounts that you can charge based on New York State law. I don't know how that applies to a tree, but as far as moving violations, other stuff, there are kind of some standard fees and charges that are already pre-established that kind of fall under New York State law and aren't changeable by the town.
I would think when you bring that up, maybe ask in terms of, would it vary by tree? In other words, there would be a significant tree versus, they ran down a sapling or something
And I think,
along those lines.
assuming Matt went through these, we can look at what other towns, if they've varied that, I would assume they either added some severity to it, or whether a sapling versus a 12-inch tree is the same thing, either way, but maybe there's some variance in that.
It kind of goes back to that that idea of, because you'll see that in a lot of these, they have their purpose and definitions, but not all of them necessarily have a tree planting or care standards written into the code itself.
Right.
If you look at Greece, Brighton, Irondequoit on the figure here, they all refer to this town forestry plan, which will have your violations and penalty details, your severity details written in there. Whereas like Tonawanda, Orchard Park, and Penfield, they all wrote it directly into the code. So in those cases, we'd have to look at it. That's a direction we want to go in, because it's going to be more difficult to, change a code if we decide that it, needs adhering, or if we need to just reassess the town forestry plan, and who would have that authority and power to do that. So yeah, that kind of gets back to, how we want to draft this, our town tree ordinance going forward.
So is there something already in the code?
So for reference, Matt, when you evaluated Penfield for this table, you were looking at the previous draft by the Conservation Board.
Yeah.
We were kind of starting back a little from that because it is a new committee. We would like the input of everyone, and we felt it was appropriate to give you the information of what was previously discussed, but starting from the template seemed the right path forward.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree with that, because we, yes, I believe the other model had been like the Princeton, and that was not supported by all members here.
And the Princeton model was not reasonably equivalent to a municipality's approach. It was because it's not like there's public land and private land or anything like that. It's all owned by the college. So by going by the draft, like the template ordinance, it's more applicable to what we're looking at and considering. So when you're looking at the table and it says in code, that is what was previously proposed. That does not mean that we have to move forward with that. And that's part of why I wanted to address that's something this committee needs to consider, if it's in the code or if it's a separate ordinance that the code refers to.
Do we have a forestry plan now?
No, we do not.
And so we're not a board, we're a committee.
Yep.
So this, the way it's structured on here, wouldn't work any longer. And to your point earlier, I think it would have to belong to DPW or some other town department. And then how would enforcement work if there were violations?
So my understanding of violations would be if a public tree is harmed, and that, again, is more along the lines of, say, someone in a park cuts down a tree or destroys something. This would also, like the tree planting and care standards, would pertain to, say, in Veterans Memorial Park, there's a tree that needs to be evaluated. The Parks Department, if they're the ones considered with the authority, the power, they would go out, determine if the tree, it will reasonably live, or if it needs to be pulled down, if it's dangerous, or there's any safety concerns. And that would help them make that determination of what to do. So this ordinance would regulate how they make those decisions, as well as if there's any issues and violations from the public on, like, residents on these public trees and parks and such.
And so you're looking for this committee to come up with a recommendation of what to put into this ordinance, which would then have to go to the town board for review and approval.
That's correct, yes.
Do they have any guidance on what they're thinking in terms of if they want this to live in a code or a forestry plan, for example, or if they want to do fines? Has any discussions been made with them?
No, I think they left it up to this group to come forth with a recommendation. We'll meet with them in a work session, share, the plan ahead of time. So I think they're looking for your best suggestion on, how that might work. And obviously in discussions with staff and, staff recommendations, as well as, a committee to kind of put something forth. And then the town board may, obviously will consider that, come back, ask questions. So there may be a little bit of back and forth when we get to that point.
I think that in previous, well, I don't remember what anybody else had said, but I think the in code means that we wouldn't have to, every time something needs to be tweaked or revisited, that we don't have to go through a major, as you said, bring it before.
Said it backwards.
No.
Did I say it backwards?
If it's in code, we have to go through a public hearing, and that kind of thing, that process, which is a 2 to 4 month process. If it is not in code, so it's more like a document that is just referred to in the town code, then we can
That's what
alter it.
that's what I mean, is just refer to it in the town code, a document referred to, then that gives us the ability to work with it more easily, because I think any new thing, plans, proposals, procedures that people come up with, you always find it sounds good in theory, and then when you try to apply it, you find that there's some tweaking needed, and I wouldn't want to have to go through elaborate votes and referendums to the public. That's the one thought there, and I agree with the part about that parks would likely need to be the ones to manage if an individual tree comes down.
You mean the Parks Department?
The Parks Department.
Okay.
And as far as tree board, whereas they had said, oh, well, there's the conservation board, which we are not, whatever grouping needs to be devised for this, we had talked before that, yes, we don't have an arborist, but it's not like we have to retain all the knowledge here, is that to seek out knowledge to make recommendations on trees. Like I know in here that to come up with trees, I'm not sure if it was in this section or someplace else, the listing of trees is, preferred species list that, I don't know that that's section 5C, whether we're going to, come up with the names of the trees ourselves to go on this list.
So right now, the town employs or contracts a landscape architect, which is who helps create a preferred tree list, which is actually part of the design spec for any development in town. So that would likely be an appropriate document to refer to. And I don't know if it would be necessary for this specific ordinance to have its own tree list, whereas we would just refer to one, so it's constantly being updated, and you don't have to check multiple sources.
Yay. You guys, have you got it, from hearing things from previous discussions at the previous Conservation Board Committee? Want to add anything, or?
Are there any documents or references that the committee would look to have provided to them as you look more into this and we move forward?
Just to email the spreadsheet that you came up with
here would be
table.
awesome. Yes.
The table?
And then you referred to, you had taken the initiative to get a couple from, are those the same documents that he did the analysis of, basically?
I would think.
Essentially, yeah.
And those are available online in terms
Yes.
of?
I went to each individual town's code and then just printed out the tree part.
Matt, we can reasonably provide those tree plans since we have them on our server.
Yeah, we can do the tree ordinances. I know that, for instance, with Greece, they have their, in Brighton, they have their forestry plan, which is where those details are, written, not in the code, but in their forestry plan. So I can provide those as well, just to kind of compare when it's written in the code, like with Tonawanda, or in the case of Greece and Brighton where it's not. But yeah, that would be very reasonable to share that with the committee.
I think that would be good. So what I heard you say was really to go forward with something like this in order to develop a tree ordinance. We have at least 3 sticking points. One is, do we want something like a separate forestry plan that gets embedded into code as opposed to directly in the code, referred to in the code?
Yep.
Who would the authority be? Because as a committee, we ourselves don't have that. So how would that authority be defined? And then coming up with an effective nuisance hazard reaction plan, what our thoughts would be on that.
Recommendations, yep.
Okay. I would say this is something that we would be better off diving into in some sort of work session.
I agree.
So that we can really kind of sit around the table and talk about some of these things. So if that's appropriate, we'll find a place on a schedule and try to make that happen. Thinking of your schedules for the next 30 days, is that appropriate to try to fit in between now and the next meeting for you guys? Or is it something that you would need to wait a little longer?
It's all dependent on the day and the time.
Okay.
If you're talking about this specific time,
No, not this specific time,
Okay.
but some other time that's
no, I
amenable.
mean, not on a regularly scheduled EEC
We
Oh, yeah.
can
meeting.
follow up, like, I can follow up with maybe a when is good and narrow down dates and times. And I can probably do like a 2-hour block on whatever assortment of days. I may do more than one when is good, so we can pick dates and then subsequently pick times. Would that
And do
be
that outside of this
reasonable?
time frame, so that we.
Yes.
for the committee?
Yeah, that would work.
Great.
I mean, and then if we can't find something in
Then
30
we
days, then we go
Then we
from there.
we'll keep working on it to do until we find something. Yes. And then if we do a separate work session, is there, for us to think about, is there anybody else in the community that we would like to be part of that? So that would just be something for us to really kind of consider as we have Sarah make plans.
Would we want input from Color Penfield Green or Healthy Yards?
And also, Mark, would that need to be recorded similar to how this is recorded and made public?
Yeah, I'd have
Or-
to check with council on that, as whether it's recorded in this fashion or whether at least it's open meetings law. We'd need to make proper notifications so that the public wants to attend, they can be here to watch. But we'll make sure we follow up with council on that and handle that appropriately.
I think it should be open to the public. Anybody who wants to attend should be able to attend.
Yeah, that's typical with open meetings. We just need to make sure we advertise it properly and, that's out there so everybody's aware.
With that, this committee doesn't specifically have like a participation time for the public. The town board does, but this committee does not. How would we handle any public comments, Mark? Just because you have the experience.
Yeah, I mean, normally now for this group, if we're going to have public participation, we used to have a time in Conservation Board of EEAC as a public participation. That's been taken off the agenda. So going forward, my understanding, we'll need to make that an agenda item. So if somebody wants to address this committee, they'd have to let us know ahead of time. We'd make an agenda item and then put it on so the public is aware that that's being discussed as well. As far as anybody's input onto those conversations, again, I may have to talk with council on that, as whether we would take, emails or comments. Often a work session, say a planning board work session, town board work session, is typically a discussion amongst the group and this group staff, and then after that, if the public wants to provide email, written letter, something, based on that discussion. It gets a little complicated if you've got too many voices in the room and the group is trying to have an open debate conversation back and forth. So we'll check with council exactly how, to handle public input on that. Obviously, they have the opportunity, the right to do that, but, a normal planning board, town board work session is a conversation with staff and committee members to kind of debate, discuss, go back and forth, and then obviously that's in the public forum, it's tape recorded. The public can watch and then provide input from there, but they may not immediately be at the table at that moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it would be hard to work forward if we were having to, because almost in that you would be having to step back and explain what we're doing.
And
So we wouldn't be able to just say, go from this point forward.
Would be my only concern about, Penfield Green or something. Yes, they can provide comments and everything else, but I think to me, it's more valuable to have staff and the committee to have
Okay.
a conversation amongst ourselves.
Okay.
They obviously can watch and listen and provide comment, and the committee can discuss and, entertain those comments. But to have them in the room again, you have more conversation of explaining why and what, and then just people asking questions and trying to get.
And if you
Get the right
invite one, the problem becomes, have you omitted?
And that's also where you run is who did you invite, who didn't you invite? Where if we're just having a discussion, anybody's watching this meeting can provide public comments, send their email. We're not exclusionary of who can and cannot comment on our meeting. Anybody can send an email in or phone call or anything else to, for our
Okay.
consideration.
And I would say simply by having this conversation now here, that anybody that is interested in that particular thing will probably get feedback from.
Yeah,
which we'll
I'm
be able to
expecting we'll get
incorporate.
emails and people that,
Yeah.
have resources they'd like us to look at, or, other areas that weren't maybe on the list that we had indicated of another forestry plan that they like, or something else that they'd want this group to consider.
And that would be awesome.
So this particular document and working with it fulfills one of the requirements for Tree City designation?
Yes.
Once it's adopted by the town board, it
Okay.
would fulfill that.
Okay.
So with a forestry management plan, is that something that we would recommend the town go and contract forester for developing? Or is that how would that get?
So the town
Put in
does
place.
not need to have a forestry plan. It can have this tree ordinance, and we can detail any applicable information within that.
It seems like another discussion point for the group when we get together.
Yes, if we do have a forestry plan, what would be in the forestry plan? So, okay. So noted.
I think when Matt sends out the samples of other communities, you can kind of see what they've done and what they've gone. So again, you have a straw man to start from. This is the sample provided by the Arbor Day Foundation. So again, it gives you a straw man to start from. You're not starting from scratch, and then you can have puts and takes and, tweak it. But I think there's basic elements that if you're going to be a tree city, these are kind of the base elements of the items you need to have in your plan. As you can see, the other communities have added in, other items, but, this is kind of the bare bones of kind of what you have to have in to qualify for Tree City.
Any other discussion on this? If not, we'll move forward. Okay.
I'd just like to say thank you, Matt, for putting together the spreadsheet. That's helpful for this project.
Okay, the next item listed is the Monarch Pledge.
So we've previously discussed at these meetings that the town was looking to pursue the mayor's Monarch Pledge. We have formally made that pledge, and the town board has passed a resolution to do so. So we did that within the proper time frame. Now we are in the process of meeting the requirements for 2023. At the last meeting, Mark shared some of the requirements that we were pursuing, and I just wanted to share those again real quick. We're pursuing 4 because we're required to complete 3. So ideally we complete 4, and if we get 3, that's the requirement. We're engaging with city parks and recreation, sustainability, and other relevant staff to identify opportunities to revise and maintain mowing programs. And native nectar planting programs. We are issuing a proclamation at the EV Car Show on April 29th, which is a Saturday, and also Arbor Day, to raise awareness about the decline of the monarch butterfly and the species' need for habitat. We are working with Healthy Yards Monroe to have a pollinator-friendly and monarch-friendly demonstration garden at the community center. And Healthy Yards Monroe is also presenting classes and working with residents to complete that garden. So they're taking a large initiative in that. We're integrating monarch butterfly conversation into the town's conservation plan that they're looking to complete this year. And those are our 4 items.
What was the last one again?
We are integrating the monarch butterfly conservation into our conservation plan. Sorry, not conservation plan.
Comprehensive.
Comprehensive plan. Sorry, so many words. So that's the comprehensive plan.
Okay. See, and I ended up with 5 when I did my counting, so I think the first 2 were lumped together.
They do, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
The mowing program and the native nectar
Planting program.
Planting goes together, okay.
So that's all one, and that's working between departments to make that happen. So that is the update for the Monarch Pledge.
Okay, good. Are you all comfortable with those 4 action items? Okay, I think they're very well chosen and will have a good impact in achieving that goal. So I personally like that. thank you for those that came up with that list. I appreciate that. Anything else on the Monarch Pledge? Okay. We get to move to new business now. And our first is a review of some upcoming events.
Yep. So I also have events to add to that list, but I'm going to start with what's written.
Yes.
The EV Car Show is April 29th. Again, that is Arbor Day. That show will be at the Community Center from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be different groups tabling at that event to share information on different sustainability items, planting type of thing, like native pollinators, those types of things. And we will be issuing the Mayor's Monarch Pledge proclamation also at that event.
Is that communication finished? Is there a way to add the Mayor's Monarch Pledge to that list of things?
We'll be providing that information on our social media and our website. I don't know if that small flyer is complete or if we can alter that. I've been working with Bob Knauer, who previously was on EEAC and is helping to head up that event, along with some Color Penfield Green members. And also, please be aware, it is helpful for them if you register ahead of time. You can obviously show up the day of the event, but by registering ahead of time, that lets them know an idea of how many people to expect, as well as if you're looking to bring your own EV or hybrid, that they can include that in their list. Does anyone have any questions on that event? Okay. Good Neighbor Day is a town event that happens every year. Specifically, this one is May 6th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you would like to participate, please reach out to Sabrina Renner at 585-340-8651. Again, that's 585-340-8651, 8651. Or reach out to her email at srenner, R-E-N-N-E-R, @penfield.org. Participants must register ahead of time. They're looking for volunteers to help with seniors and disabled residents that need yard work done. If you know anyone that needs help with those kinds of items, please also reach out or have them reach out to Sabrina so that they can get on a list to get that help that's needed. The event is also published on the town's calendar if you're looking for more information. Does anyone have questions on that event? It looks like no.
Nope.
Then I'll go into the Family Fun Fair. That is also May 6th. That is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It is open to the general public as well as volunteers for Good Neighbor Day. There'll be food trucks, crafts, games, and music. All of that is free. And we are partnering with Browncroft Community Church to put that on at Rothfuss Park. Are there any questions with that event? Great. We'll move forward.
Sound good.
Some events that have come up in another meeting that I attend pertaining to sustainability are there is a Climate Solutions Summit on April 22nd and 23rd. That is so that the public can come learn a bit about how they can advocate for essentially a cleaner future. For information on that, you can refer to the I'm blanking on the name. The Accelerator's website. I'm so sorry.
Me either.
We'll look that up and I'll give you more information. But if you look up the Climate Solutions Summit 2023, that is coming up not this weekend, but next weekend.
Okay. Can I hold you for a second?
Yep.
We've lost our signal for the one for our audience. Is there?
I will go to the man in the sky. Tyler?
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for noticing.
It's just the
Oh, he found it. That was just
Yes,
enough
thank
time
you.
for the
That's
wizard
perfect.
behind the
And Matt
computer.
provided the information. The
That was 2019, though. Let me make sure I get it right.
Yeah. So the Climate Solutions Accelerator hosts that event with some support organizations, but that is Friday, April 21st and Saturday, April 22nd. The 21st is for local organizations, municipalities, and such. The 22nd is open to the public to attend. So that is April 22nd. On the same day is Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation's overstock sale. They did the tree and shrub sales, and that is the day they're selling overstock items, so you don't have to order ahead of time. That is at Eco Park from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Is that open to the public, or?
It is, yep. That's, again, Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation's overstock sale. Then going to the next weekend is April 29th is Sierra Club's tree giveaways. That's going to happen at multiple sites around Rochester, specifically the Seneca Park Zoo, Webster Park, and Genesee Valley Park are their initial sites. If they have enough volunteers, they'll also be doing that at Northampton Park. And again, that's a tree giveaway, so you don't have to pay for the trees. And they're giving away 4 different types of trees if you're interested.
And that's April 29th.
That's April
Arbor
29th,
Day.
Arbor Day.
Electric car show
Electric
day.
car show, yep,
Sierra Club.
yep.
Sierra Club?
Sierra.
Oh,
Sierra
okay,
Club.
Thanks.
Yep.
Is that on the Sierra Club?
It is.
Website that'll be?
that's correct.
Okay, so that'll be the easiest way to get all those locations.
We're back.
And then lastly, 4 events, and this one's slightly out of order, not this weekend, but next weekend, which is Earth Day, 4/22, April 22nd, is the Zoo Sustainability Days, or Earth Day at the zoo. They're doing some focus on different sustainability initiatives that the zoo is taking. So it's a great day to learn a little bit and see some animals. And those are the events I have for you.
Okay, that one sounds very family-friendly as well.
Yep.
So,
So those specifically are the events for new business. Are there questions on any of those?
no, thank you for bringing all those up, though. I believe that that's good for our community if people in Penfield can be part of those activities.
Great.
Okay, so we have other new business. I think we'll start with your couple of items.
Sure. So we have had some new business come in since when we sent out the agenda and published it. I'll start with RG&E smart meter installation. RG&E will begin installing smart meters in Penfield homes shortly, and well, in the next few weeks. They will send a postcard to customers so that they know when their representatives will be coming out, just to kind of as a heads up. When their representatives come out, they'll knock on the door to let anybody home know what they're doing. And then if your meter is on the outside of the house, they'll switch it out. It should just take a few minutes. And then they'll leave you a door hanger to let you know that they were there. If for some reason that they cannot change your meter over, they'll leave you a door hanger that lets you know that. Reasons that they might not be able to do that is if your meter is inside, if there's an issue with your meter that it is outside, and then with that door hanger, it will also give you contact information so that you can set up an appointment to have them come back out. If you have any questions on that, you can go to www.rgne.com/smartenergy/innovation/smart meters. As well as you can call their number Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. or Saturday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. This information will be provided on the town website. And I believe we'll also be sharing what Matt has up, the frequently asked questions about smart meters.
Okay. Will you say again what the timing was when they expected to start this?
My understanding is the next few weeks.
Okay.
Are they planning on doing the entire town of Penfield?
Yep. Their plan is to do the entire Rochester region.
Sarah, is that both gas and electric at the same time, or are they doing them phased?
They did not give us that information. In their email, they explained that a smart meter is an electric and/or natural gas meter that has two-way communication between the meter and RG&E systems, and it transmits energy usage and meter status information. So they do have smart meters for both gas and electric, but they did not explain the time frame, if that's separate or the same.
Okay, anything else on that one? Okay.
The next one is we were requested to complete a survey as a potential stakeholder for Monroe County's Phase 2 of their Climate Action Plan. For reference, Monroe County, in the past few years, completed their Climate Action Plan. There's a Phase 1 and a Phase 2. Phase 1 is to address Monroe County facilities, and Phase 2 is to work with municipalities to help municipalities and residents move forward towards the appropriate climate actions. So we filled out that survey letting them know where Penfield is and what our status is, as well as different projects that Penfield has completed in our sustainable initiatives. And I just wanted to provide that as an update.
Okay, so we have completed this request.
We have.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that survey made public, or is it just goes into the pool of other respondents?
I believe it just goes into the pool of other respondents. If any individual person would like to make any comments pertaining to the county's climate action plans, you can go to the county's climate action plan website. You can simply search that on Google. It's pretty easy to get to. And they have a wall that you can put your different comments on, and different sections of their plan, like refer to different sections of their plan, whether it's transportation or housing, whatever your comment is referring to. And they have that open to the public. They did last month do 2 public information sessions so that the public could also comment in person.
Okay, they said that it would take 10 minutes, just out of curiosity. Did it take 10 minutes? Or
Oh, yeah, it was quick.
It was a quick
Yep.
one. Okay.
Yep.
I always love surveys that say they'll take 10 minutes, but don't.
I think it was closer to the 10 minutes, but that's also because Penfield has completed quite a number of actions already.
Okay. So you made us look good, right?
It did. It
Okay.
did.
Okay, were there any other new business items that you had, Sarah?
Not at this time, but thank
Okay.
you.
I have a couple.
So I'm ready for that.
You were
Okay.
ready for that, yours.
Is there any other new business that we would like to bring up at this point in
Well,
time?
this is, well, actually, it's a new business item I brought up last month, and I'm just going to ask that it was in the minutes, ask that it be put on the agenda for next month, is that we look at if we are going to continue bringing in professional speakers. The previous Conservation Board had decided to do this. Well, we didn't really pick a time frame, whether it be twice a year or more frequently. But maybe we can talk about right now, do we want to do this? It was both for the purpose of educating ourselves and educating the public.
I thought at the last meeting, I was not here, but I did watch the recording. that the committee acknowledged they were interested in moving forward with speakers,
Okay.
and that we just had to pick a time frame and have any recommendations. Is
Right.
that inaccurate?
Yes, and that we were, I think my other recollection, though, is that we're still a little bit overwhelmed with figuring
Okay.
out our business to necessarily dive in too much. So, but if you, I think it would be appropriate to generate a list of some first ones and then figure out a frequency for us to do that.
Okay, because we do have, Doug, Catherine had a list. I don't know if you can get to her folders. Of course, they would be specifically Conservation Board
Catherine
oriented.
had started an initial list. I believe she had identified 2 speakers on it. I can look if I can pull that up and send it out.
Okay.
Then maybe a follow-up task, if the committee feels it's appropriate, would be that the different members could come to next meeting with any recommendations of other speakers that they would be interested in having come in, whether that's whoever spoke for the invasive species or someone more so on the sustainability side. And then Doug can also come back with that list as it's available. Would that be appropriate, and
I
you're
think that's
comfortable
a
with
good
that?
idea. And we do have each other's emails, so we can certainly do some exchanges between now and next month to see what kind of timing we think we'd like to do. Like, I mean, I think it would be lovely to do it quarterly, personally, which would give us 4 sessions or 4 times to do that, so.
Doug, did you say you could send out that?
Yeah,
So
I'll
we
take-
could have
I'll
that
find it
to
and send it out.
start with? Okay. And I think the other question maybe we need to find out is, for our discussion, is whether free is better, but whether or not we had any kind of budget, if we felt we could pay for, a speaker, if we were like, oh, we really have to have this person, so.
Specifically this year, so this committee, similar to the Conservation Board, does have a small stipend so that we can pay for any education, or similar to last year, get saplings and give those away at a tree giveaway. This committee did agree that this year we would not be doing a tree giveaway,
Right.
so that money could be allocated towards a speaker if that is felt appropriate by the committee members.
Okay. And my other item, I don't think I talked about this before, maybe it's just me asking questions right now, is that we had talked about, and I promise I eventually will reach a point where I won't say, oh, the old Conservation Board.
This is great,
Okay.
so no worries.
Okay, that we had talked about in the instances of communication of whether it would be, have a separate, and Daniel and Rosanne helped me out with this, a separate section on the website that was specifically listed for our board, that, some of the things, I mean, it might be duplicative, because I imagine you have a lot of these things on the website already, but whether or not we would have a section, Environmental and Energy Conservation Committee, where people could go to that section and
So the
and see
website
things.
does have a page for Environmental Conservation Committee. That page, I know, at minimum links to sustainability items so that it's not just all on a super long web page. If there's other specific items you feel would be appropriate to add to that, we can do so. Just let us know, give us a list, and
Sure, okay,
any specific writing to go with that.
Okay, so maybe I'll look at it, and maybe we can all look at it and see where might be things that we think put a link in or something.
Sure. I mean, it might be fun, like considering today's conversation, to have a link to the Arbor Day tree program, the Tree City, and to have something to the Monarch Pledge, so that members of
Yes.
the community, now that they've heard our discussions, would be able to figure out what it was that we were talking about.
Yeah, that sort of thing, so that when you're going to Penfield Town website, that you don't have to peruse all these different, but if your interest is energy and environmental conservation, you can go to this one spot, and it'll take you to where these links are located.
We can definitely do that. And especially if,
There's-
again, if there's any additional items you'd like to be on there, we can include those.
What is this you're showing?
So this is the EECC
Oh, okay.
page on our website.
Oops, wrong way.
So it starts with kind of our mission statement and then more information about the committee. It tells who the committee members are, the liaisons, the meeting dates, and then there's a video archive, which was kind of adopted from the previous 2 web pages for both committees and put onto this page.
Great. So there's something already there.
Yep.
I think it would be good too, just to make sure, like as you talked about the survey, making sure that some of the bragging things that we get to be able to talk about, the idea that somehow it's communicated, like the going to LEDs for all the street lights.
So that if Matt will scroll up to the top of the page, because generally having just one really long page for people to scroll through isn't as useful. We put sustainability as an item that you can click on, and that brings you to the sustainability page. It may be appropriate at some point to have a conservation page that refers to the tree ordinance once we have that adopted. And this page is more so our brag page.
That's
Okay.
perfect. Yep.
And then this also goes through the history of what the town has done.
Yep. See, they think of things even before we do. Right?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. That's new business that's kind of done business for us.
The
so
best kind of
that's really
business.
good. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? Okay. Is there any other new business from anyone else that we want to come up with at this time? Okay. In that case, that brings me to the notice that our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 11th, same time, same place. So that's 4:30 to 6 p.m. And at this point in time, can I have a motion to adjourn our committee?
I'll motion.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We can consider ourselves adjourned at whatever time it is. It is 5:33 p.m.